Hi, Ronnie. Can you hear me now? Ronnie?
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Hi, Daniel. Good to see you.
Guest speaker.
Richard Golden. Whoa.
More people
Shabbat shalom.
online.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
So we're in a new place.
Oh, really?
500 people.
We're at the Jewish Theological Seminary. It's more fancy now than when I went here.
Okay.
And that seems to be a pattern in these institutions that I went to. Because I went to NYU and it was like whatever school, and now it's like, wow. And
Excuse me, Rabbi Diane, there's a lot of background noise.
Oh, there's background noise.
I
Okay.
think you're right.
Background noise.
Once you're right here.
Having too much fun with it. We are.
Hi, everybody. So as I was saying, we're in a new place, at the Jewish Theological Seminary. It is lovely, and we are more or less happy to be here.
How is it for you to be here having studied here?
Good question.
Sure. You feel like a student again?
You know what? I can't figure out what it feels like or what it's like. It's like it's a little weird. It's like it's familiar, it's different. I'm here. What am I doing here? I've never really aligned with the conservative movement after rabbinical school, so.
Well, I have a nice story to tell you. You know, I am an intellectual snob.
You're an intellectual snob.
So,
Okay, good to know.
So with that background, I signed up for a course in Hebrew translation and stuff. I didn't realize this is for the pros. And I walk in, I cannot follow one day.
Here?
Yes, and they were so kind to me. They tried to make every possible accommodation. They tried
Nice.
to come back and love me, and they made sure not to shame me. I was very impressed.
Oh, good.
Good people.
Good people.
Yeah.
Good people. And I think Asher Chaim maybe.
Couldn't hear what the person said.
Rachel Mackliff told a story that she took a course here. She prefaced it by saying she's an intellectual snob. And she took a course in biblical translation. And it was way above her head.
Way above my head.
Way above her head. But they were so nice to her.
Unbelievable. That's very nice.
Unbelievable.
Very nice.
So now we know it's a lovely,
Yeah.
lovely physically and aesthetically, and there are at least some nice people here.
Rabbi Diane, are we allowed to ask how long ago it was that you studied there?
Let's see, are you allowed? Yeah.
Expecting an answer may be a different question.
There it is.
I graduated in 1995, in the last century.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but she was the first one to enter without having straight out of high school.
Okay, enough about me. Let's go. All right, so this is Shabbat Nachamu, the Shabbat of comfort, after Tisha B'Av, right, after the next Shabbat, the day of mourning, the day where we commemorate the destruction of the temples and all kinds of other Jewish calamities. And as I was saying last night, for those of you who weren't here, we're between the 9th of Av, standing in Shabbat Nachamu on our way to Tu B'Av, which is the Day of Love. And historically, it was the day of matchmaking in the Second Temple period, and it's become a kind of Jewish Valentine's Day. So we're in between grief and love and standing in comfort, or in dating. And it's interesting the way the Jewish calendar, you have Simchas Torah, and you have all kinds of, or it's supposed to be a very happy holiday. Sometimes the holiday doesn't match your mood. And sometimes the holiday doesn't even match the national mood. So here we are in comfort, but we're still in war, right? And again, as I was saying last night, how's the audio, by the way? Because I see Asher Klein going with this. No?
Yeah, the audio is a bit quiet. I'm messaging Eden right now. Yeah.
Should I go closer to the microphone?
That would be fantastic. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so if you can't hear me, do what Asher Klein's doing. I don't know. Okay, how's that? Is that better?
Oh, that's perfect. That's excellent.
And if you can hear me, go like this. I love it. Okay. How are you guys doing across? You're fine.
Yes, I follow.
You follow. Great. You're following me? You follow? Yeah, follow. So here we are, possible ceasefire agreement, possible regional war, lots of anxiety, and trying to track, these holidays that again do or don't align with where we are as a people, and right where we are often individually. But let's jump into the parsha and see what that brings us, where that brings us to. And we're starting off with some moments of deep grief from Moshe, and possibly hints of comfort. So we're going to consider that. She should go one seat to the right. Is that what I should do, Richard? Why?
Maybe you can't see.
I mean,
Oh,
we
you
can
can't
only
see
kind
me.
of see the side of you, but I think
Okay.
let's see how that is and just see how the sound is. Yeah. We are having you play musical chairs today. I'm so sorry, Rabbi
You
Diane.
have to go to the gym today. You're all exercise that.
All right, everybody.
All
How
right.
is that?
I can't.
Bracha? Bracha?
Oh, the bracha?
Oh, bracha. Thank you. The bracha. Okay, in cacophony. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher
Amen.
Our gratitude this morning to the source of all being for the privilege of soaking in divine wisdom. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And thank you to Asher Chaim for some study and preparation, and also for an amazing source he sent me, which I'll point to at some point. Okay, so here we are. I called it maternal vulnerability and Moshe's leadership. Hopefully that will become clear. Let me start with a little quote from Franz Kafka. Not because his life was too short does Moses not reach Canaan, but because it was a human life. So what does that mean? So, we can think about Moshe not entering the promised land with what he did, punishment, or what the people did, and we can think about it as a human life. Like we all get to a certain point and we go no further. And we can see what we can't enter. Right? There's always a horizon beyond us. So those are the broad terms in which to think about this.
If I may add, excuse me, it was the title that Aviva Zornberg gave her biography of Moshe. Moses, a human life.
Yes, Moses, a human life. Good point. I never made that connection. Thank you, Mommy. Okay. So here we are at the beginning of the Parsha, and there's so much here in these few verses. So rich. Oh wait, where are the copies? You don't have copies? It's not good.
I will message Eden.
Will you? Because I know she made copies, but somehow they didn't make it to this room. So that's a very strange thing. Okay, can you guys see the board?
Yes, yes.
They make it a little.
There's a bit of reflection from this, so it's probably just my particular seat.
Feel free to move around if you need to. I'm making it a little larger. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Okay, so Ve'etchanan el Adonai ba'et hahi lemor. So there's a couple of things already interesting in this verse. And I pleaded with Adonai at that time, saying, so Etchanan has the word in it, chen, which means grace. Right, so Moshe is appealing to God for grace at that moment, saying. So actually, let's take a little moment to look a little bit deeper into this concept of grace at this moment. I pleaded, Ve'etchanan, ein chinun b'chol makom, ela l'shon matnat chinam. So the word chinun, pleading or asking for grace, always means a free gift. right? It's so, Moshe's not asking for a gift based on like, okay, come on, God, I did this, I took the people out of Egypt, I split the Red Sea, I took them through the wilderness for 40 years. Moshe could have said that. And do you ever say to someone, you love or a friend, it's like, oh my God, I did this for me. Can you even do this for me? Like, really? You're not doing this for me? It's not the most helpful dynamic, but it's a dynamic, right? But Rashi's saying, and I think the Torah is telling us with using that word, that Moshe is not doing that. So Afal Pi sheyesh lahem l'tzadikim lidlot b'maasehem tovim. And even though the righteous can, or tzaddikim can, and should rely on their good deeds. In other words, their good deeds should get them something. But one does not pray to God for anything other than a free will gift. Wow. As God, so in other words, what you get from God, it's not about deserving, right? It's not about deserving.
Right.
And I don't know about all of you, but I hate when people say, oh, you deserve, go on vacation, you deserve it. I was like, I can afford a vacation. A lot of people can't afford a vacation, right? They don't deserve it? What does it mean I deserve? I don't even know what that means. But anyway, it's one of my pet peeves.
Means you've been busy. That's all that means.
Working hard.
I know, but it's not like I deserve it more than anyone else.
No, but it's just saying you deserve it doesn't say you deserve it. Other people just says you deserve it.
No, okay.
And then your thoughtfulness.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing to say.
I'm calling the whole
I come with wisdom.
concept of deserving into question. Like, who knows who deserves something and who doesn't?
Everybody.
Right? It's
Kind of
just,
like luck. I mean,
there's a lot. Exactly. There's a saying that I really like. People who are born on third base act like they've made a home run. I was like, oh, I went to Harvard. I was like, oh, okay, did your father go to Harvard? What kind of life did you lead? What kind of education have you had? Like, what's our individual accomplishments, given the kind of context and history we're born into? Anyway, that's an aside. I'm going to go on. All right, so then there's a quote from Shmot, Exodus 33:19, which is really interesting. I'm going to actually go to it right here because it tells us how grace works. So when Moshe says, God, show me your glory, show me your face, show me your glory, God said, Vayomer, ani avir kol tuvi al panecha, v'karati b'shem Adonai lefanecha. I myself, God said, I myself will cause all my goodliness to pass in front of your face, and I will call out the name of Adonai before your face. But then there's something a little mysterious here. The chanoti et asher achon, and I will be gracious to those that I will be gracious to. Right? There's no rhyme or reason. That's what God does. V'richanti et asher arachem, and I will have compassion on those that I will have compassion. Okay, so that's the proof text for Rashi's idea, and we're going to go back to our passage, and we're now in the second verse. So Moshe is saying to God in his prayer, Adonai, Yohed Vahe, Ata hachilota leharot et avdecha et kolecha et yadcha hachazaka. Asher mi el v'shamayim v'arch asher yaseh k'maasecha u'kivuratecha. So, my Lord Adonai, you yourself have started to worship, to let your servants see your greatness and your strong hand. That who is a God in heaven and on earth that can do according to your deeds and according to your power. So I thought this was fascinating, and in fact, it's the first time I really understood it, that Moshe is saying, like, you've just started, God, to let me see who you are. After all this time, Moshe understands that he's only seen a tip of divinity, just the very tip. There's so much more, even though Moshe has seen so much. And in my study with Asher Chaim, he was saying, it shows Moshe's great humility as well. And sometimes humility is understanding that there's so much you don't know. So much you don't know about another person. So much that you don't know about divinity, for sure. And I think when we're in judgment of other people, which we often are, if you're like me, then there's a lack of humility there. What do I know? What do I know about who you are, about who you really are? The truth is, I don't. And you don't ultimately know who I really am. And in fact, we're even mysteries to ourselves. Why do I do what I do? It's like, oh, I plan to do this, this, and this, and I end up doing instead of X, Y, Z, A, B, C. And it's like, what happened? I don't know why I did A, B, C when I planned to do X, Y, Z. How did that happen? So there's lots of mystery. There's lots we don't know. We're just starting to know, maybe. Okay, so now, verse 25. E'ebra na ve'er'eh et ha'aret ha'tova asher be'irayim ha'har hatov hazeh ve'halevanon. Pray, let me cross over. So you see this word e'ebra na. Please let me cross over. And in it has a root, ayin bet resh, which was also the root of Ivri, as Abraham was the first Hebrew, or the first crosser over, right? The Hebrews are the people of those who cross over. So Moshe is praying to be in that tradition of a crosser over. Please let me cross over, and I will see, right, the good land, which is in the Aver, again, that is across the Jordan, and the good mountain, I'm sorry, I'm not translating very well. That is in the country across the Jordan, these good highlands and the Lebanon. So Moshe is asking to see, and Moshe is asking to cross. And let's see what God does. Vayit aber Adonai bi. So that's interesting, because it uses the same root as crossing over, but the word evra means anger. So God is angry with me. How it relates to the meaning of that same root, I don't know. We're going to dig into that word in a minute. But God was angry with me, lima'anchem, because of you, right? Moshe's in a blaming mood, because of you. The lo shama Eli, and did not listen to me. Vayomer Adonai Eli, and God said to me, Lav lach al tosef daber Eli od bedavar hazeh. And God said, enough for you. You have enough. Do not speak to me anymore again about this matter. Okay, so, hold on one second, I'll call you one day. So ouch. Here's Moses in all his vulnerability. And you know how it feels when you're vulnerable and someone's harsh with you? Right? Not to mention God being harsh with you. It's like, ouch. Right? So, Moshe really, opening himself up, pleading, begging for what? The project of his life to be fulfilled, his dream to be fulfilled, is like, God's like, no, Rav Lecha, enough for you. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Wendy.
This is the second time that God says to Moses, don't speak to me of this anymore. Because right after he hits the rock, there's in several parshas that follow, he makes his case to Hashem and says, I did this, I did that, I did this, and finally, in Bamidbar, God says to him also the same phrase.
Okay, I'd like to see it. I don't remember where that is. I remember Korah saying that to Moshe, and Moshe saying that to Korah, but I don't remember God saying that to Moshe. But if anyone has a proof text and a verse, please put it in the chat. Okay. Ashachan, you have something for me on that?
Sorry, on what?
What?
I'm sorry, what am I looking for?
Wendy says this is not the first time God says to Moshe Ravach. But I think it is, but I'm not sure. So Ashachan just goes to look. Okay. All right, so now. Okay, so remember, Moshe's asking for two things. Amy, I see your hand. I just want to get through this passage and I'll call Moshe is asking for two things. One is to cross over, and the other is to see, right? And now here God says, Ale Rosh HaPiska, B'sa Einecha, Yama, B'tzafona, B'teimana, B'mizracha, Ure'eh Be'einecha, Ki lo ta'avor et hayarden hazeh. So go up to the heights, right? Go up to the top of the Pisgah range and lift up your eyes and look, right? It says toward the sea, but it also can be understood as south, north, east, and west. And look with your eyes, because you will not cross this Jordan. So again, that root, lo ta'avor, you will not cross the Jordan. And remember, Ebrah, or vayitaber, is also getting angry, but it's the same root. Okay, let me just see if I missed any of these roots. Okay. And then finally, 28, V'sav et Yehoshua, v'chazkehu v'amsehu, and command Joshua and strengthen him and give him courage. Ki hu yavor lifnei ha'am, because he will pass before this nation. So ouch, 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 right? Because Joshua gets to pass and gets to do this avoring thing, gets to pass over, cross over, but Moshe can't. For he will cross over before his people, and he will cause them to inherit the land that you see. So one could say that God is giving him the gift of seeing, even though he can't cross over bodily. Because remember, he asked for two things. He wanted to cross over and see. And we're going to get more into that, but now I'm going to call on Amy, and go ahead, Amy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We traditionally think of the first two reasons, that the spies and the hitting of the rock, as the reasons why Moses wasn't allowed in. But Steinsaltz gives a startling, and just blew my mind when I read what Steinsaltz's interpretation of this whole thing, 326, because of you. Moses is not saying here that God prevented him from entering the land due to the incident of the water dispute, as could be construed as an affront to the dignity of the nation, which was listening to his speech. Rather, and this is what's startling, rather, Moses is explaining that he was prohibited from crossing the Jordan River because the people he took out of Egypt remained on the other side, and since his flock all perished in the wilderness, he must remain with them. While God's denial of Moses and Aaron's entry into the land could have been linked to a specific transgression, the primary reason presented here for God's decree is that the leaders must remain with the people.
Ooh, interesting. Interesting. Thank you for that.
Yeah, blew my mind.
Yeah, I think that'll resonate with some other things.
Hey, Rabbi Diane, I'm so sorry to do this again. Like, some people have told me they're still having a bit of trouble hearing. Although we love to see your beautiful face, would it be okay if you moved in one again? Because it was better when the mic.
Richard, is it okay?
Maybe sit in the middle.
Or if someone would be willing to just move the computer over a little bit so we can see.
Oh, this computer?
Yes.
Or, you could turn the screen slightly and everybody else would hear.
Okay, does that help us?
I don't see you at all now.
Infinitely better. Move it more to your left.
You move this screen away from me?
Move it more.
If it's to the left, it's going that way.
Oh, to the right then. Yes.
Okay, how's that, everybody?
Wait, oh, so sorry. To the left. Yeah. Oh, boy.
Left, right.
Cool, it's fine, it's good.
It's good? All right, we're just going to say it's good.
Yeah, we're going to just say it's good for now. Yes.
I don't see you at all now, Rabbi Diane.
Okay.
If you take the view that's labeled Rabbi Diane Kohler.
Yeah, there's another view, exactly.
Yeah, I can
Exactly.
also spotlight that one
Okay.
if you want. Yeah.
Also, the
Amy,
gallery, you can see Rabbi in the gallery view as well.
Here I am. Amy, you can put your hand down. Oh, thank you. Okay, Rachel, and I'm gonna go on. Go ahead.
The lady who just spoke, Amy, I'm so glad you brought that up, the Steinsaltz. You're telling us that Moses has to stay with the people who didn't cross.
Right, a whole generation died. The generation that came out of Egypt died, and their children go into the land.
So, but I thought, hearing Steinsaltz, that this was a reference to something that blew my mind the last time I sat here and studied with you guys, which was there was a person who had a huge amount of cattle, and he wanted to keep his cattle.
The tribe of Reuben.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And I was blown away because it looked like Moses was doing some kind of a tricky deal. He didn't check with God first to see if it was okay. He started the negotiations assuming that it was kind of going to be okay and sent those signals. And that was pretty dirty. And, I was amazed that he didn't get away with it. And from
Yeah, he did get away with it.
remarks,
He did get away with it, yeah.
I am interpreting it, that that was his sin. That he abrogated the powers given to him by God. He didn't say, let's go see what God says about this.
So Moses, in only very few instances, says, let's go see what God says about this. Moses had the power to be a decisor, right? To be
I didn't
a
know
judge.
that. Oh, okay. Well, that makes me feel better about it.
Oh, good. And I think that what Steinsaltz is saying, unless I misunderstood, is not that Moses is not entering because of a sin, but that a leader stays with their people, which is different.
The people are, even if the people are dead, he's got to stay with them.
That question crossed my mind. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe they're not dead yet.
It's like going down with the ship.
Okay. Yeah, it's like going down with the ship. Okay, Jay.
I just wanted to highlight the leitmotif of seeing. Way in the beginning, as you said, Moshe only started realizing that Moshe is only seeing very, very small parts, but it's leharot et avdecha. It's kind of reminded, and he's not going to see God. He's going to see the conclusions, like Magadlu. We see the impact of God. We don't see God directly, and similarly, he's not allowed to cross, but he can still see the wonder of God's accomplishments by looking over the Jordan.
Yes. So that is a kind of gift and perhaps the crux of the comfort. Right? There's some comfort there, even though he can't ultimately get what he wants.
Yeah, and it's all part of it's all within the context of seeing God, not God directly, but the God's wonder.
That's really interesting. It's like it's sort of like a repeat of him seeing God's back. It's like the impact of God.
Yeah.
In the world.
I think of it as a big wind tunnel. Like you can't see it, but you can see the consequences. And similarly, we can't see God, but we see the consequences all over wonder.
Beautiful. So he's saying, I've just started to see God, but here is a way of seeing God. That's beautiful. Now,
seeing what you're missing makes it even worse. You could flip that argument around.
So you could do that too. Seeing what you're missing, it's like, God forbid I die tomorrow and I don't know what my kids will go through, or the children they'll have or won't have, or the partner. It's like, ow, right? On the other hand, if God forbid I was going to die in a few months and my daughter got engaged and I met the guy, that would be beautiful. Because I'd be able to imagine. Okay, so I want to point out, since we're on the subject of seeing, and then I want to go on a little bit. Daniel, unless your comment is directly on this, I'm going to ask you to wait.
It's about seeing?
It's about seeing. Okay, so let me say one more thing about seeing, and then I'll call you. So the thing about seeing here is so interesting, because if Moses looks south, north, east, and west, then he's actually not looking at the promised land. it's like a circumferential, that's not a word, is it?
Yes.
Circumferential seeing, which has nothing to do, the promised land, at least on this plane of things, right, is in a specific place. But Moses has to look all around with this sort of like cross vision, which is interesting because that says to me, and I talked about this last night a little bit, that he's asked to sort of enter a different plane of consciousness. Not the plane of consciousness in which a promise is fulfilled at a specific time and place, but that God's works are all around us all the time, if only we have eyes to see. If only we have eyes to look around. It doesn't depend on this or that happening. So that perhaps there's comfort in the fulfillment, the deep fulfillment of that moment. It's kind of a soul vision rather than a human typical kind of vision. Okay, Daniel, scene.
That was so beautiful, Rabbi Diane. That just touched me so deeply, what you just said, that Moses, through his seeing, is entering a different state of consciousness, a soul level of seeing. And sometimes seeing in the Torah is about visionary, a kind of visionary, deep seeing.
Exactly.
So what if we understood the promised land as a metaphor for the home of the divine within Moses? That when the divine says, Rav Lach, you have so much, you have the promised land in you, your soul. That's where I want you to be able to have the vision of it's already inside of you. North, south, east, west.
Yeah.
It's within you, Moses.
Beautiful. So that's reading Rav Lach as not like enough for you, but you actually have so much. You have so much.
What could be more comfort? What could be more comforting?
Yeah. So there are really two ways that you can go with this. And there's going to be another way. I'm going to go on a little bit, Barbara, and then I'm going to call you, okay? And call on other people too. So I want to do this. I want to look at this word, this root, ayin bet resh, that you can see on the screen, because there's some curious meanings, right? So we discussed crossing over. We discussed anger. I don't really get the connection. But there's something else that's fascinating. Ooh, to impregnate, right? Also, the word for fetus is it Ibor? Ibor? Did I get it right? Hebrew speakers? Ibor? I think it's Ibor. Correct me.
Ubar is the fetus, and
Ubar.
Ibor Hashanah is impregnating the calendar.
Exactly, is impregnating. Thank you. So it's also, it's the root at, for this word of fetus. It's the root for pregnancy and impregnation. It's fascinating. So if we read that whole passage like that, then we're going to look at this midrash where it says, "V'itaber Adonai bi lema'anchem," and God was angry at me for your sake, v'lo shama elai, and didn't listen to me. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Rabbi Eliezer says, "Nitmaleh alai chema," that God was filled with wrath, evra, right? Evra, like Yitaber. But Rabbi Yeshua says, he, God, right? Rabbi Yeshua Omer, ki isha she'ena yichola lasuach mipnei ubra. That God became like a woman who could not converse because of her labor. Wow! So here the ancient sages are playing with meanings and the root of that word. And I was saying to Asher Chaim yesterday, was it yesterday? 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I was like, wow, what's going on with this word here to cross over? It also means pregnancy and to impregnate it up. So maybe even though it looks like a passage that's about setting limits, maybe it's also a passage that's pregnant with meanings. For instance, you know, just like I was saying before, Moshe here is like a mother who can't travel along with Moshe's children.
Mm, 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 mm.
Is the rabbi muted?
I
Hey,
lost your sound.
Okay, sorry, we just lost sound. Wait, I'm gonna message Eden 1 second.
Wait, Caroline, you're
Okay,
trying to
great.
talk.
Now
What do
we
you
can
want to
hear
say?
you again. Yay. Okay.
All right, Barbara, Cecil.
I think you've said a lot of it, but I just wanted to say that I think of Moshe looking around as really again looking over the whole story, right? Where they came from, where they might be going, and then when you're talking then about pregnancy, right? It's like a pregnant pause, right?
Yes.
We're pregnant. We're ready for the new experience, for going into the next chapter of the story. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can think about this whole story as a kind of birth giving, and Moses' children are about to be born into a new nation in a new land.
Right, and we all have some kind of responsibility as we get older to look at the past, parse the past, understand the past, because we can pass, here's that word, that on to the children for insight and understanding and legacy.
Pass that on to the children. Yes. Sarah, David.
What I would say is that pregnancy itself is a profoundly transitional state.
Exactly. In fact, Asher Chaim said that. Like, what's the connection in these roots? Yeah. Right? It's the ultimate transitional state.
Yes,
yeah.
And you don't go back to before.
And you never go back. You never go back. Yeah. Yeah. And we'll see that Moshe is kind of like a pregnant leader in a minute. Okay. David.
To me, this has always been about generations. And there's two things interesting to me about Moses. He's the only one, I think, later on in life, everyone's eyes are dimmed. He's the one. It's later on. It's actually made a point that he can see clearly. He has strong eyes. Yeah. And what's also interesting is that he does have children, but we know nothing about the children. I don't believe. I mean, I don't think they've been mentioned or that's a strong thing for him. And everyone else in Torah.
They are mentioned briefly in service in the temple.
Okay, but I mean, by and large, everybody else has children, and when you have children, you see the future through your children. And Moshe, is either ignoring his children for the most part or something like that. And it's like, so he's able to see without having his own children. So it's something like generations to me.
Yeah, he definitely separates from his own family, and all of the children of Israel are his children. Yeah.
I'm just thinking of, say, looking at myth and such. There's something about standing on the mountaintop, which is always seen as a strategic point, but also I sort of see him as a sentinel, and often in a good story, a key person is left behind, just in that transition, and it's almost as though they're an eternal sentinel between previous.
That's so interesting. Like the one.
Could you please repeat that for those of us online? We didn't hear.
Just say it a little louder.
I was saying that if I think of an important character in a story standing on a hilltop, and in a way it's tragic, you think about him being left behind in some sense, but he's also a sentinel as a strategic point, and it's often separating valleys or major events, say in a myth, and he's left there he's acting as an eternal sentinel, sort of a watch person between these two important periods.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And to think about his growing up in the palace, as opposed to as a slave in Egypt, he's always in, but not of, the children of Israel. Mm-hmm. Right? He's always this transitional figure. Right? He's never fully part of their story. Mm-hmm. Right? So maybe he can't enter the next stage because it's just he has a different kind of consciousness. It's a different kind of fulfillment.
Well, he already crossed his river. It was the Nile, not the Jordan.
Well, across the Sea of Reeds.
Right.
Yes.
That's right.
The Sea of, yes, that's right. That's interesting. Okay, so let's look a little bit at Moshe as mother. So it says here in Exodus 32. So this is after the sin of the golden calf, and Moshe is desperate for God to forgive God's people, and says, "Vayashav Moshe el Adonai, vayomer, ana chatam hazeh chata'a gdola, v'yasu lahem Elohei zahav." So now, if you would only bear away their sin, wait, that's not exact translation. Sorry, that's not the translation. So sorry, it's a little misaligned. So Moses says, this people sinned a great sin, and they made themselves a golden god. The ata, and now, here's the translation of 32 under 31. V'ata im tisach chatatan v'im ayin mechenina misifrecha asher katavta. So now, if you would only bear away their sin, but if not, pray, blot me out of the record that you have written. So in other words, Moshe is so committed to Moshe's children that if they're not forgiven, he doesn't want to go on. Right? That's like a mother or like a parent, but then it gets even more intense. So this is a really poignant passage from Numbers after the people are complaining about the manna and how many meat to eat, and Moses is really angry. God is really angry at them. And Moses said to God, "Vayomer Moshe el Adonai, lama hareota la'avdecha, v'lama lo matzati chen beinecha lasum et masa kol ha'am hazeh alai." Moshe said to God, to Adonai, "Why have you dealt ill with your servant? Why have I not found favor in your eyes that you have placed the burden of this entire people on me? Ha'anochi hariti et kol ha'am hazeh? Have I myself conceived or given birth, conceived this whole nation? Im anochi yildetihu. Did I give birth to them? Ki tomar elai sa'ehu b'chekecha. That you should say to me, carry it in your bosom. Ka'asher yisah ha'omen et hayonek al adama asher nishmatu la'avotav. Carry your bosom as a nursing parent carries a suckling child to the soil about which you swore to their father. So Moses feels this burden of mothering alone, right? I don't want to carry like this suckling child. And I think Moses is saying to God, like, I didn't give birth to this child, you did, right? So why do I have to bear this burden? May ayin li basar latet l'chol ha'am hazeh ki yivku alai le'mor tena lanu basar v'nochela. From where should I get meat to give to this entire people when they weep on me, saying, "Give us meat," so they may eat. So every parent knows when it's just too much, especially if they are a single parent for whatever reason. V'im kacha at oseh li hargeni na harog, hargeni na harog imatzati chen beinecha ve'al bera'ati. If I'm not able, I alone, to carry this entire people, for it is too heavy for me. If thus you deal with me, pray, kill me. Kill me if I have found favor in your eyes, that I do not have to see my ill fortune. So this is too much. This is too much for me, and I'd rather die if I have to go on bearing this burden. And then again in Deuteronomy, right? Last week, and very much in resonance with the book of Echa, Lamentations, Moshe says, "Va'omar alechem ba'eta hi lemor lo uchal lebadi se'et etchem." And I say to you at that time, saying, I am not able, I alone, to carry you. I can't do it by myself. Adonai Elohechem hirba'echem God, your God, Adonai, your God, has made you many. V'himchem hayom kekochvei hashamayim larov. And here you are today like the stars in the heavens in abundance. So here's the fulfillment. But the fulfillment also means the burden, right? The fulfillment of the promise has become such a burden. Adonai Elohei Avotechem Yosef Alechem Kachem Ele Ta'amim Kivarechem Kasher Diber Lachem. Adonai, the God of your fathers, may he add to you as you are 1,000 times and bless you as he promised you. And then Moshe says, Echa esa levadi tarchachem umasa'achem v'rivchem. But how can I carry, I alone, your load, your burden, your quarrel? Right? Which again is in resonance with the book of Echa, which is the book of Lamentations. So this is Moshe's lament. Right? How can Moshe mother alone as a leader? Right? How can Moshe carry this burden? And I think we all know, or maybe many of us know, that sometimes life feels like a burden we can't bear or we can't carry, and we just do. We're under-resourced for the task before us. We're under-resourced. How can we possibly bear this? How can we possibly face this? So Moshe, you really feel through these passages Moshe emerging as a multifaceted character with a sense of vulnerability and like, I just can't do this. Okay, so let's think a little bit about Moshe's background. Okay, is anyone waiting to speak? Richard is clapping. Did I miss something important in the chat? Let me see. Let's just open it for a second. Let's see. Okay, I'm missing this whole thing. All right, I can't keep up with this. I have to give up in the chat. You have fun. Have fun in the chat. Okay, so let's remember Moshe's sort of ambivalent kind of childhood, but let me call on Asher Chaim first. And then I'm going to ask Asher Chaim to read the next passage because my voice is getting tired.
Sorry, what?
Also, after your comment, I'm going to ask you to read the next passage because my voice is getting tired.
Just a brief excursus for Shabbat Nachamu.
Please.
When Moshe asks, how can I bear this alone?
Yeah.
And the whole Echa theme of how does she sit alone? And Moshe, how can I bear them alone? The word Nachamu is a plural imperative. When Isaiah says, comfort, comfort my people, he's telling a group of people to go comfort the people. And they all ask, well, who's supposed to comfort us? And the answer is, you are all supposed to comfort each other. The commandment of Shabbat Nachamu is to empower those who are suffering to help relieve the burden of others who are suffering. And as Rabbi Sachs points out, the brilliance of the judges, the 70 judges, elders, is that Moshe is no longer alone.
Yes. But those, yes, that's right. But Moses still feels alone. Yeah, Rob.
Yeah.
You're having a problem.
Yeah, no.
You're having trouble here.
No, but here's the thing. He starts off in Exodus.
Yeah.
What if you want to destroy these people, take me out of your book. And God says, I'll make a nation out of you.
Right.
So he becomes the fighter of Israel. And as time is progressing, he can't take it, it's too much. He was the ultimate fighter, and now he's done. He's like finished. It's sad. It's sad.
I would say it differently. That he has moments of vulnerability and despair, which are inevitable in the life of a person and a leader.
No, it's not. A leader, the nation is in the wilderness. He's got a job to do. Shut up, do your job. And that's what a leader does. He sits there, he can't handle it, it's not good. I mean, it's incredible. This is the no.
Okay, but Rob, who does he tell that he can't handle it?
God.
Exactly.
His boss.
Oh, God, oh my God. If I can't handle it, who else am I gonna tell?
No,
He's praying.
He told him in Exodus he had no problem. Kill me. Just if you want to destroy the Jewish people, kill me, take me out of your book. That's standing.
You're having a hard time with this.
It's no.
You find it like a disappointing.
No.
It's a disappointment.
No,
No.
the problem is it makes perfect sense on a certain level that he did his job. He got them to a point.
Yeah.
He's done to go, and you're going to see. You're going to see it on Monday. One leader has got to go, and the next leader is moving forward, and you're not going to see him.
You're talking about the Democratic Convention?
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the title meeting on Monday? Is he talking about Joshua and Moshe?
No. But it's the same concept. Joshua was.
He's saying Moshe's done.
He's done.
I think Moshe's a leader for a certain moment.
Yes.
But I think any leader has moments of like, I can't handle this.
I think it makes a leader feel very human.
Yes.
That there's nobody who's sort of so strong that they never have moments of collapsing. And he's saying it to God, but he's not saying it to the people. It's different. You turn to your spouse or a friend and go, I can't stand my kids anymore. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Turn around and saying to your kids, I can't stand you. It's a very different thing, right?
But he did get mad at people after he hits the rock. Or when he hits the rock, he yells at them. But yes.
Isn't this also the theme? I mean, I haven't been here while I've been away, but last time I was here, we talked about the next leader, right? Joshua, who's scared, or his fear, and that people feel connected to him because he understands their fear.
Asher Chaim taught that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems to me that vulnerability is exactly what makes the leader a leader.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's that empathy that, I can say that I'm hurting, that things are hard for me, so that's okay. You can be human too.
We know that.
I'm so sorry. Could you please speak louder, or could we just reiterate?
Okay,
what
everybody,
you
people
said?
can't hear this conversation.
Oh, sorry.
So, do you want to say something? Because
We know that Winston Churchill got depressed, so
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah. But it's interesting because I read a piece in the Times about whose vulnerability we can tolerate. So if you're uber competent, then people are like, oh, I'm so glad you're showing your vulnerability.
Yeah.
But people who are not uber competent, the public does not like their vulnerability. I think it's really complicated.
Yeah.
And it sort of intersects with power. Okay, let's think about Moses' mothering now and do like a little sort of psychoanalytic background check, so to speak. And I'm going to ask Asher Chaim to read Exodus 2.
Vatomer Ahoto el bat Paro, his sister said to the daughter of Pharaoh, Ha'elech v'karati lach isha meineket min ha'ivriot. Shall I go and summon for you a wet nurse from among the Hebrews, v'tenach et hayeled, so that she can nurse the infant?
So let's just recall that Moshe's mother hid him for 3 months. I always imagine a closet in their house. And when he got to be too old, meaning I think that his cries got to be too loud, she could no longer hide him. And so he is placed in the Nile, and with his sister looking over him, and then the daughter of Pharaoh steps into the scene, and Miriam, his sister, kind of finesses Moses' mother serving as his wet nurse and being paid for it, which is unbelievable.
Vatomer lach bat Paro, lechi, vatelech alma v'tikra et im hayaled. Daughter of Pharaoh said, go. So the young woman went and summoned the mother of the infant. Vatomer lach bat Paro, helichi et hayeled hazeh v'heniqehu li v'ani eten et scharech. She said to her, the daughter of Pharaoh said to her, take this infant and nurse him for me, and I will pay your wages. Vatitacha isha et hayeled vatnikehu. The woman took the infant and nursed him. Vayigdal hayeled vatvi'ehu levat paro, vayhilah levain. The infant grew into a boy, and she brought him to the daughter of Pharaoh, and he became to her like a son. Vatikra shemo Moshe. She, daughter of Pharaoh, named him Moshe. Vatomer, saying, Ki min hamayim mishitihu. I Moshed him, I drew him out of the water.
Beautiful. So Moses loses his mother once and then gets her back and is suckled by his own mother, and then loses his mother again and is brought up by the daughter of Pharaoh. So, he's mothered by his mother, and yet he loses his mother. Right? It's a very tenuous attachment. And, one wonders how that affected his own leadership, especially with all these, using all these sort of parenting images when he's having a hard time.
What we would call trauma.
What?
What we would call trauma today.
Yeah, what we would call trauma. And then after he emerges from this sort of world of women, right? It's a sister, his mother, the daughter of Pharaoh, and then in Shmot Bet, or later on in the same chapter, it says, Vayehi bayamim hahen v'yigdal Moshe v'yitzet el Achav. Now, some years later, Moshe grew up and he went out to his brothers and saw their burdens. Vayar b'sivlotam, vayar ish mitzri makeh ish ivri me'achav. He saw an Egyptian man striking a Hebrew man, one of his brothers. So he's now inducted into the world of, slavery and violence, and he himself murders. Okay, Jay and Ashokaya.
Yeah, sorry, I should have noted this earlier, but am I right now in recognizing that Moshe was named Moshe by the princess?
Correct. Yeah.
So that's an Egyptian name?
Yes.
Well, is that not a problematic? Especially since he was never renamed. I mean, he's essentially, we know our name. I mean, I can speak from personal experience. We know our name is a key identity marker. And so there's a way in which he's Egyptian all the way.
Well, the rabbis say that she converted.
Of course
maybe they had the same problem you did.
And she had a Hechsher conversion.
So I think this points again to Moshe as a transitional figure, right? He's not of the people. He's in the people, he's the leader of the people, but he's not like the others. He's always a little bit apart.
But in some ways that makes him more important. Sorry.
It makes him able to be the leader of the people because he was not traumatized in the same way that they were. He was not disempowered as they were in this master-slave relationship. One could say he was actually empowered by the power, right? The reigning power of Egypt, which was the daughter of Pharaoh and the Pharaoh himself. Okay, so I see Ronnie and then Asher Chaim. And Sarah. Okay.
Just a quick word again about the name, which is, I remember reading that it's a totally made up folk etymology. It actually doesn't exist either in Egyptian or in Hebrew. And it adds to the ambiguity of Moshe's situation. There's an undecidability even about his name.
Undecidability, is that what you said?
Undecidability. I think it complicates in a rich way the nature of this extraordinary human being whom we're talking about.
Okay. All right. Now, quick comments because I want to get to a few wonderful midrashim. Asher Chaim.
First, Ronnie, I'd actually heard the opposite, that in Egyptian, Moshe, Meses, means son, like Ramesses.
Ooh, interesting.
So she's calling him my son. And the Hebrew etymology, Moshe, from Masha, to draw out of the water, is to create a both and identity for Moshe. But what I was going to say before, Rabbi Diane, when you put the contrast of the conflicted issues of growing up and who's his mother, and then he goes out to the men, all of a sudden I understand differently that he reacts by expressing rage. Maybe it's been an inner rage of not knowing who he was, but he takes a stick and he whacks an Egyptian. That's his first public act.
Yes. So you mean the rage comes out in sort of at the same moment that he marks his own identity, or the rage comes out as a way to mark his identity. Yeah. Okay. Sarah.
I just wanted to say quickly, though, reading the end of this passage about Moshe, meaning, I pulled him out, reminds me of someone pulling a baby out.
Oh, totally.
A birth canal.
Totally.
But there is
It's another birth story.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there's no human here. It's the water. And so this is Moses coming out of water as opposed to a human mother, which is another vast indication of a type of flow, but also of a type of, if you're not linked to a human mother, there's an abandonment that comes.
It's an abandonment, but then her pulling him out of the water is like another birth.
Yes, it's exactly.
And another mothering. And then he, in a sense, pulls the Israelites out of the water.
That's
right? Which is another birth story.
Yeah.
Okay, Barbara, very quickly.
Okay, quickly. I want to argue that Moshe has 3 mothers, and that's a good thing, that he has more mothering than, let's say, many other people. He has his mother, he has the princess, he has his sister to some extent.
Beautiful.
As a mother.
Yes. And
also, and the second thing I was going to say really quick is who's his father and what's his confrontation for the first time with men as a Hebrew himself?
Yeah. Amram, he's sort of in the background. We don't know anything about him.
Right, but there's no maleness around.
There's no maleness.
Moshe.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, and there are 3 women who conspire to save the life of a child across enemy lines. So it's really, really powerful. And again, his sister is so brilliant to get a Hebrew slave paid to nurse her own child. It's unbelievable. So it's a really harbinger of redemption that has not yet arrived.
Great move.
Okay, I found this. Wait, Asher Khan, your hand is still up, but did you say something? Oh, no, okay. All right, so here's a midrash I found. I couldn't find it in Hebrew, so sorry about that, but I loved it so much I wanted to share it. Can someone in the room read in English? Number 14. Do I have a reader?
Because you were an imposter?
Yes, but read it loud.
In English?
Yeah.
It's only in English.
It's only in English. Read it loud so the people over there can hear.
Okay. Moses said to God, Master of the universe, Joseph's bones are entering the land, and I shall not enter? Said God to him, he who admitted to his land is buried in his land, and he who did not admit to his land shall not be buried in his land. Joseph admitted to his land when his master's wife said, See, they have brought us a Hebrew man, and he did not deny it. On the contrary, he said, I was abducted from the land of the Hebrews. Therefore, he shall not be buried in his land.
Therefore, he shall be buried.
He should be buried in his land, sorry. You, however, did not admit to your land when the daughters of Jethro said, An Egyptian man rescued us from the shepherds, and you heard this and were silent. Therefore, you shall not cross this Jordan.
So here's another reason why Moshe is not entering the land, and I thought it was fascinating. Moshe acted like an imposter. He acted like he was an Egyptian, and he's not an Egyptian. He didn't say at that moment, when Yitro thought he was an Egyptian, that he was a Hebrew. He didn't claim his identity. He closeted his identity. Okay. Here's another midrash. You don't like that? Why don't you like it, Thomas?
I think it goes against in spirit, it goes against this idea that everything is a free will gift. it's a post-rationalization. It's like, because you didn't do that,
It is
I
a
didn't do this.
post-rationalization, for sure.
It's transactional, it's
For
bargaining, it's this kind of petty meaning making that I think diminishes the sublime mystery of it all.
I hear you, and I'll tell you what I do like about it.
Okay.
That it raises up the value of claiming our identity, even when it's uncomfortable.
Sure. But,
that's why I include it.
But because it's framed as crime and punishment,
I hear that.
It's lowered as much as it's raised.
I hear that.
Okay.
Okay. Let me just check the time. Okay, so I think we're going to skip this, even though it's fabulous. So we're going to skip this and this. And we're going to go to two poems. One is from this person who I don't know, Deborah Maisel Miller, but you can find it. I have the link here. Okay. So she writes, "Comfort, comfort my crushed, my desolate people. Bring them into the room beyond comfort, where I am prayer and I am pain. Listen, Israel, as my servant Moses leads you to my crying rooms. Hear him plead, O Lord, open my lips. Lord, let me cross over. Let my teachings fall like rain. Generation to generation, ears that heard God speak from fire, now hear his rain fall gently on their future fields. Eyes that saw the mountain burn to the heart of heaven, see the goodly land cross across the river. But no one hears the breaking of a heart. They do not see the face that once saw face to face, look back in wonder and ahead in anguish. This man Moses, born to be apart, like we've been discussing, pleading for his people, I will fill the world with prayer, said he upon that other peak, before I let you flood it with your pain. You will show mercy upon whom you show mercy, and I will never know your ways, yet I will not choose the cloistered Eden comfort of a drunken Noah, nor will I let you make of me a great nation. Blot me from the book you have written. I will forge a different comfort. If they would but listen, I would teach them the comfort of carving you a highway through the desert stone. That's a quote from today's prophetic reading. Of loving you with all their heart and being and might and pain and sickness and longing and defeat. Oh, that I had wings like a dove, I would fly away and be at rest. Then I would wander off, I would lodge in the wilderness. I would haste me to a shelter from the stormy wind and tempest. Enough, said the Lord to his friend Moses. Let your longing be enough. Just really beautiful. Let it hover here upon the blindness of my dark night. Let your longing sing my praise from here, my wounded dove, until your people learn to carry you across upon the eagle's wings of prayer. Brings so much that we spoke about and other references as well. And I just love the notion of how we're still carrying Moshe, right, in our tefillot, in our prayers. All right, one more, and then I have to go to services.
What's the honor of reading this one?
What? Yes. So I thought that Rumi's poem was so different, so much like it's a radically different approach to death than Moshe. And I thought it was worth bringing in to consider a different approach to mortality. And Tomas, to my right, would like to read it.
I would. Rumi is my number one imaginary friend. When I Die by Rumi. When I die, when my coffin is being taken out, you must never think I am missing this world. Don't shed any tears, don't lament or feel sorry. I'm not falling into a monster's abyss. When you see my corpse is being carried, don't cry for my leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm arriving at eternal love. When you leave me in the grave, don't say goodbye. Remember, a grave is only a curtain for the paradise behind. You'll only see me descending into a grave. Now watch me rise. How can there be an end when the sun sets or the moon goes down? It looks like the end. it seems like a sunset. But in reality, it is a dawn. When the grave locks you up, that is when your soul is freed. Have you ever seen a seed fall into earth, not rise with a new life? Why should you doubt the rise of a seed named human? Have you ever seen a bucket lowered into a well, coming back empty? There's Miriam. Why lament for a soul when it can come back, like Joseph from the well? When for the last time you close your mouth, your words and soul will belong to the world of no place, no time. And I can't help but adding, one of my few pilgrimages was to the tomb of Rumi in Konya in central Turkey. And it was the same fortnight that I first went to Jerusalem as well, so it was a very important month. And they told us that there were two conditions. Konya petitioned to bury the great Rumi, the great poet, and there were two conditions. Rumi was like, sure, but you must do these two things. The first was that he not be buried down in the ground, but up in a stone box, which was the other way to get buried. And ostensibly it was a tribute to Rumi's own mentor, his kind of beloved teacher. He wanted to be buried in the same way, so up in the box. So there's virtually air under the stone box when you go into the chamber, which is a bit like this with big arches. And so he's not even in the ground, he's just above the ground. And seeing this poem, I think it was not only a tribute to his teacher, but also this insistence that actually he was not in the abyss, and none of us are in the abyss. And we remain somehow in the world, but not the world as we experience it now. And the second condition that he gave to this town for the honor of being his burying place, he's like, there might be pilgrims, people might want to come because they've mistaken me for a saint. And my condition is that it not be a sacred place and that my tomb be open to barbarians, to heathens, to fools, to enemies. And that's why I could go as a pilgrim, because by the
Which category are you in?
all of them, I think, but not a faithful Muslim, not a Muslim. It was weird. There were heathens and weirdos and pagans and barbarians, including at the tomb, and that's why you can make the pilgrimage. And it's kind of like sacred precisely because Rumi was like, let it not be sacred, let everyone come. And this was a very hard condition because they were going to make it into like, a VIP room, but actually everyone can come. So.
Oh, wow. So, let me just get to gallery here so I can see all of you. So on this Shabbat of Nachamu, on this Shabbat of comfort, I bless us that we have the ability to comfort one another, as Asher Chaim was saying before. And I bless us with Moshe's vision, right? The vision to see ahead of us, and to the side of us, and to that side of us, and in back of us, and to see the promise fulfilled everywhere, not in one specific moment or place, but the possibility of that promise being fulfilled everywhere and always for all of us. And with that, I say Shabbat Shalom, and hope to see you in services.
Yeah, God. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll lead the way.
Oh, they're here.
They're here. We've got services downstairs. Okay,
Take us across the river.
I'll leave the Zoom. The Zoom people are going to have their after party, so I'll leave them alone.
Bye, everybody.